Hello, First Church families. I hope you're doing well. I have some special stories from a special book that Pastor Tina left behind for us, and it is called Close Your Eyes So You Can See. These are Bible stories about Jesus' time, but I'm going to do something a little bit different, and that's what this book is asking you to do. I want you to be part of the story. So to do that, there won't be any pictures. There will be at the very end of the story. There won't be any real pictures because you're going to have that picture taking place in your head. And I want to read to you from the back of the cover because it's a reminder. Come meet the children in Jesus' life and see how he loves boys and girls just like you in Bible times, today, and always. And then it goes on to say, close your eyes so you can see what it must be like to be a little girl or boy who knows and walks with Jesus as they grow. And that is from a song by the author. The copyright is 1996 by Harvest House Publishers in Eugene, Oregon. Today's story is Who is the Greatest? Listen with your minds, pretend you're there, sit back in your favorite chair, lay down on the floor, grab a pillow, close your eyes, and let's take a visit to Jesus' time. Close your eyes so you can see two small houses by the sea. Can you hear the sound of the waves outside the door? Can you smell the saltiness of the sea? The sky is dark, the streets are dark, and the houses are almost all dark too. But in one of the homes, you can see a few dim lights shining through the window without curtains. Listen and you can hear the muffled sound of voices. His parents named him Rufus because of his red hair. Rufus means red. He was a quiet boy, the youngest in his large family. Their house in Capernaum was right next door to the little house where Jesus lived when he was not on the road preaching and teaching and healing. When Jesus was at home, there was usually a crowd of people at the front door. Sometimes Rufus would go to see Jesus at his house and all the different faces there. Most especially, he liked seeing Jesus' face and hearing the stories he would tell. One evening, just after supper, Rufus heard voices next door. Then he heard Jesus' warm, familiar voice. Asking permission from his father, Rufus went over to see what was happening. Jesus recognized Rufus as he stuck his head in the door. He greeted the small boy with a gentle smile and kind words, offering him a piece of bread. "No, thank you," Rufus said. "I just ate." "Very well then." Jesus placed the bread back in the basket. "You are welcome to stay." The way Jesus spoke to Rufus made him feel like the most important person in the world. The small boy moved out of the way and into his usual corner. As he sat down, he heard some of the men around him whispering angrily. "I gave up my nets and boats," one big man was saying. "Well, so did I," another interrupted, "and I left a family too." "Time will tell," the first one said in a solemn voice. "I'm sure that I will be known as the greatest follower of Jesus." Rufus wondered why they were arguing. It seemed a silly thing to do with Jesus in the room. Just then, Jesus turned and spoke to the men. "What are you bickering about? You're not arguing about who is the greatest again, are you?" The men looked surprised. They stood in embarrassed silence, waiting to hear what Jesus might say next. No one would answer his question. Things were beginning to feel a bit tense, so Rufus thought it best to head home. As he was tiptoeing quietly to the door, Jesus called him by name. "Rufus, will you come here by me?" Jesus reached out to Rufus and tenderly touched his shoulder. His hands reminded Rufus of his father's hands. They were strong and gentle at the same time. "Why must you argue about who is the greatest?" Jesus was looking down at Rufus, stroking his hair, but he was speaking to his followers. They didn't say a word. And then Jesus said, "Unless you change and become like this little child, don't even think about entering the kingdom of heaven." Every time Jesus emphasized a word, he would move his hand, jiggling Rufus' little red head. "What?" Rufus looked up surprised. "You say they're supposed to be like me?" he said, taking a big breath as he spoke. Jesus was quiet for a moment, pausing thoughtfully before he spoke. And he said, "Tell me, red-haired one, do you love your father?" "Why, yes," Rufus answered without hesitation. "Do you try to please him?" Jesus asked. "Him and no one else," the boy beamed. "And one more question." Jesus bent down on one knee and tenderly placed Rufus' face in his hands. "Do you care about being the greatest?" he quietly asked. Rufus thought for a moment, wanting to pause the way Jesus did. He could tell this was a very important question. "No, I don't care about being great," Rufus looked into Jesus' eyes, "because my Father is great." Jesus enfolded Rufus in his arms. He looked up at his followers, the warmth of his glance meeting their confused faces. And he said, "If you really want to be great, important, grown-up men, then be like this little child whose only concern is pleasing his Father." Well, the men were silent. As Jesus straightened himself, he snatched Rufus up into his arms, and looking him level in the face, he said, with a smile, "I have a great Father too." So in this story, Jesus lived next door to Rufus. Where does Jesus live now? Would you have liked to sit in and listen to Jesus speak? I know I would have. And how would Jesus answer the question, who is the greatest? I hope you were able to relax for a little bit of this story. Think about how it must have felt to Rufus way, way, way back all those years ago. Talk about the questions with your family. Have a good week. Enjoy whatever it is that you're doing. And I'll see you next time. Bye.